Hello and welcome to a new episode of Meet the Author Live. I'm your host, John Saunders with New Degree Press. Meet the Author Live is part of New Degree Press is part of Manuscripts Inc. This is an enterprise that has now published authors on 6 continents and ranked just recently 293rd on the Inc. magazine 5,000 list. This is the fastest growing privately held companies in America. Pretty extraordinary. If you have a friend in Antarctica that's thinking about writing a book, please have them reach out so we can check the last one off the list. But this has just been an extraordinary circumstance, and this year we'll cross over 1,500 published authors. If you think you have a book in you or want to start or accelerate a movement, check out creator.institute to learn more about the next cohort. And we're just kicking one off right now, and they start every 4 months. But you could have a book in your hands going through the process in the next 10 to 15 months. Pretty extraordinary. And not just a published book, but published like a second-time author, which includes audience activation and creation. So Meet the Author is an opportunity to learn everything valuable. Everything, Alisha, be ready for that. Valuable there is to know about the author. And we can answer your questions live in the chat. So please do put thoughts in the chat. And certainly if you would share where you're calling in from, it's always fun to see where we have fans calling in from. But today is a special episode. I have with me brand new author and superstar coach, Alisha Wielfaert, who published her book just a few weeks ago and has a newly released podcast episode out of the New Degree Press Creator Community Podcast, available wherever you consume podcasts, YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever it might be. Quick bio on Alisha here. We'll dive into some of the questions. And again, feel free to add your comments and questions to the chat. Wielfaert is a life and business coach working mostly with creatives, spiritual seekers, and entrepreneurs. She uses her deep understanding and passion for resilience and personal growth to empower individuals and create the life and business of their dreams, even in the face of adversity. Alisha, love the story, love the title of your book, Little Failures, available now. Great to see you. Welcome to the show.
Oh, John, it is such a pleasure to talk to you. Something juicy always comes from our conversation, so I'm so excited.
I feel like I always learn something when we chat, and it has been such a privilege to get to go through this journey with you and learn and grow with you. So it's been a lot of fun. How does it feel to have your name with a book on it wherever you can buy books online?
It's surreal. So yeah, there needs to be like a new name for that experience because it's so strange in a good way.
Right. And it's been so fun to not only get to work with you on the coaching side of this journey, but to really just follow your journey on social media. You've helped me rethink how to go out and market yourself. You've done such a brilliant job of bringing people, really giving them that insider's look at the journey as you've done. I love that post you made where you wrote little sticky notes on like a big, was it a heart? Is that right?
Yeah.
Where did that idea come from? I love that one.
Oh my goodness. So I really approached this book launch as I wanted to build community. You know, the Create Institute, it's like community powered writing. And I wanted to bring that into what I was doing. My work is that way. And the idea specifically came from Bonnie Christine. She's a surface pattern designer, and she teaches a course called Immersion, where she teaches people how to do Illustrator, Illustrator is really hard. She's a great teacher. And each year she writes everybody who joins the course their name on something and posts it. This year she got paper that had seeds in it. And after the course was over, she planted their names. And so she always does something fun like that. So that's where my idea kind of germinated from, no pun intended.
Wow, that is so cool. So you borrowed the idea from another, sounds like great creative soul out there and found a way to execute it in your own. I mean, that was such a great post, putting all the notes and names on there. Really love that. Speaking of notes and names, already a bunch of shout outs in the chat here. Abby Donnelly. Abby, thank you for joining us today. Great to see you.
Love Abby.
Congratulations, Alisha. Marion Hoffman, is that? I'm so proud of you.
Yes.
Superstar. Marion, totally agree with you on that one. Kelly Clark. So excited for you, Alisha. Kathy Clark.
Kathy, yeah. Hello.
Great to see you. There's Marion again. It's already sold out on Amazon. It is available on Barnes & Noble. So fear not. And there's Abby again. Brilliant. Thank you for that, Abby. Great to see everybody in the chat here. You know, Alisha, one of the fun things about your book and the whole journey is picking out a cover. Can you tell us about the genesis of the cover design here? It's so cool.
Well, thank you. The cover was a journey for sure. So I was the guys that we get to work with on the cover design, they're amazing, and they took some ideas I had and they ran with it, and I gave them the go ahead to run with an idea. And then when they came back, I didn't like it, not because of anything they did, but because I clearly didn't communicate my idea well. So I just thought, okay, I don't even know how to make this happen, but I don't want to give too much away about the last chapter. However, really our knowing your compass is really important when it comes to failures. And I decided, well, I love to watercolor, and some friends were like, Alisha, you really need to paint your own cover. And they gave me some ideas, and I painted a couple iterations, and voila, I created the cover.
Amazing. Well, it looks great, right? There's a navigation sense here. There's right. It's a story about failures. I love that you landed on this concept of failures because so often, right, we don't talk about these things. Like, how do you think about failure and how do you think about it differently now that your book is out there?
Well, okay, so failures are really our best kept success secrets. We don't get to where we are because we never failed. We become successful because we fail, we learn, we iterate, we try new things, and we keep going. And the people who are successful, they might not know it in those words, but they know that. And so I wanted to give folks really a map, a playbook to deal with, overcome fear of failure, and then what happens when failure does happen. Because if you're trying, if you're living, if you're going after your dreams, you're going to do some failing. So what do you do when that happens? And how do you come out the other side resilient and maybe full of a little more energy and spunk and chutzpah than if you hadn't failed?
I really appreciate this concept of taking failure and really flipping on its head. So many times it happens, we feel ashamed, we're embarrassed, all of these things, and we try to hide it, right? And your message, and I loved it in the podcast, which is out available now, the full length version of this, a fuller length version of this conversation about how do you face it, how do you own it, and how do you really take that information that, right? Because that's learning, right? You failed, you did something wrong, it didn't work. What is your what is one of a story you'd like to share about failure from your book that you think listeners would want to hear?
Mm. Okay, so one of my favorites, since I see some authors on right now, is my friend Jessica Moore. She wrote an entire book and was afraid of other people seeing it, afraid of failure, and she hit delete. I don't like, for those of us who've written a book, writing an entire manuscript and hitting delete because you're afraid of failure. Oh my gosh, that is just such a painful story to hear. However, the beautiful thing is she didn't let that one failure keep her down. She didn't let it stop her. She has since gone on to write 7 successful books. She even landed a publishing deal on her first try after that, which publishing deals are hard to get. So she ended up being enormously successful.
So cool. And I wonder sometimes, is it the fear of failure or is it something else that drives those decisions? What did your book journey teach you about that?
Well, a lot of us do have a chronic and persistent fear of failure. So we are often afraid to try because we're afraid of what it will look like to others if we don't get it right, or we think it's not worthwhile if we don't get it right on the first try. We're afraid to be beginners. And if we allow ourselves to be in that beginner mindset a little bit, that's where the most innovation comes, is from that space. And so if we can just allow ourselves to get messy, let our hands get dirty, so to speak, that's where the learning is. And that's where innovation comes from.
I maybe there's another word that's coming to mind is maybe approach things with a bit more of curiosity, right? As opposed to coming into it saying, I know this, right? So many times, getting the great privilege to interview so many authors through this podcast is I hear people talking about, I'm going to write a book and it's this output exercise. And in reality, what they often find at the back end of it is, whoa, I learned so much about this through this journey. So I'd be curious what you learned most about yourself and your concept through this journey of writing.
Okay, something Eric Custer said in the very early stages of the Creator Institute is when he was talking to us about how to talk to other people about writing a book. And he said, no one likes a know-it-all. Okay, this is the most beautiful concept ever. He's right. No one likes a know-it-all. And I think some of us are so afraid of looking stupid that instead we go to the other end. We go to the know-it, like I'm guilty right here. Like I'm so guilty of that. And when he said that, it gave me permission to go into the curiosity and allow myself to look a little stupid sometimes. And it helped me not only write the book, but it also helped me embrace my failures a little bit more, in that I was able to learn more when I got curious with other people.
And that's what's so fascinating about interviews and talking to so many people about your book, your concept, what you're thinking about, because it can help open up new doors for you, right? And just find new ways of thinking. Is there an example you can think of for your book that a new door opened up for you as you went through it, as you were talking to people, interviewing them?
I mean, okay, so there's a chapter in the book where I talk about how after a failure happens, to do a SWOT analysis at one point. So it's somewhere in the middle of the sequence of like, evaluate the strengths, the weaknesses, the opportunities, and the threats of what you just did. And I don't know, it was something that I did intuitively, but I didn't necessarily have the words. And folks that I talked to in the business world were like, this is a SWOT analysis. So that was an interesting way to look at it in a way that I hadn't thought about before.
I love that. So that came from having conversations with people and explaining your book, and they helped kind of reframe it through the SWOT concept, which is it's a simple framework, but it's one that you can get so much, I think, so many great lessons from, or give you a clear way to think about something.
Absolutely.
That's awesome. A few more notes on here I want to share. I think this was the last one I missed. Patty Gentry, hello from DC. Patty, I'm also in DC. Hello. Miriam, I can't quite make out the name. Anaheim, California. We've got coast to coast here. Lisa Freeman, thank you for jumping in here, Lisa. Oh, and all the way from New York City, Douglas, author and professor. Douglas Shear, congrats on your book, Alisha. Thank you for being so brave. Couldn't agree more. Writing a book, creating something is an act of bravery for sure. And one more, can't wait to read Little Failures. I love that. So happy for you. Thank you for jumping in there, everybody. Thinking about the book, Alisha, and sort of lessons you've learned. You also have, you've also done this interesting thing around creative thinking, and you've taken up the hobby of watercolor drawing, right? What have you learned from that about your career in business?
Well, art, creativity, painting, and failure, if you allow it to, goes hand in hand so nicely. So over the period of the pandemic, I took up watercolor. I'd always been really interested in it, but I just immersed myself in it. And my watercolor teacher, Sharon, shout out to Sharon Larson, she's amazing. She talks about how, like, sometimes you just have to let the mistakes happen. And those mistakes are oftentimes mistakes become the most beautiful part of the painting. And so allowing the mistakes to happen and then sleeping on it and then coming back to it the next day and looking at it with fresh eyes can often give you a completely new understanding of your work.
Wow. I feel like there's a Bob Ross quote in here somewhere. Am I channeling Bob Ross properly?
Yeah, there's a Bob Ross quote in the book too.
Happy little tree, happy little mistake, something like this, right? I love that. So many great little notes coming into the chat here for you. Anne Cassidy, I don't know that we put that one up yet. Marion's channeling some future opportunity sets for you here. Thank you. TED Talk. I could see it. Here's one from Abdul Kader. Setting goals that are high and very ambitious implies a big chance for failure and full of achievement. The trick is to make the journey enriched with incremental successes. Love that. Thank you for sharing that. And somebody got their book in the mail today, Patty. That is fun to actually get to hold on to them. I love that. So last question before we jump into the rapid fire questions where we get to learn everything there is to know about you, Alisha. Main takeaway from the book. What have we got there?
The main takeaway is that I think the main takeaway is know who you are, know what's important to you, and go after what you want. And then you don't get it, take recovering actions until you land in the place you want to be.
Right. It kind of makes me think of the quote from, I think it's Michael Crichton, right? Books are written, great books are rewritten, right? And so there's this iterative process that helps you get there. And it's not going to be a straight line. And couldn't agree with you more. For those who want to learn more about Alisha and her story, visit Yoke and Abundance or find her at Yoke and Abundance on Instagram and other social media sites. But I think Instagram probably your favorite, or yokeandabundance.com. She's also got a fantastic podcast out there, which I think I'm in the queue for to be on here one day soon. So really look forward to that episode coming out. Thanks again for having me on. So with that, let's jump into the rapid fire questions. And if you have other comments or thoughts, look, boy, this chat is filling up faster. Thank you for jumping in, everybody. Here's a quick a note from Kent. I don't know, is Kent someone who got your book?
Chicken and egg question here.
If we can shape other people's reaction to failure, we can create learning environment that will lead to success in all sorts of areas.
Yes, he gets it. Kent, you get it.
Well put, Kent. Well put, right? It's about reframing things and focusing on like the outcomes and the goals rather than, I think we do this in many aspects of our lives. We attach ourselves to the idea or the thing, the project. And if it doesn't work or someone says it's not good, then suddenly we feel bad about ourselves, the book, the painting, whatever it is. But reframing failure about getting towards that bigger goal of helping others, creating this kind of thing. I love that. Thank you, Kent. A couple more in here before we jump in. After the TED Talk, more aspirational goals for you. Oh God, what's the big art show in Miami? Art Basel, is that right?
Oh, I don't know.
That sounds like a good one. Oh, and Abby is inspired by Kent as well. Well put, jumping in there. All right. As I said, and by the way, if you want to hear a longer version of Alisha's answers to a lot of these questions, check out the creator community at YouTube, Apple, Spotify, wherever you consume podcasts out there. And her book is available on Barnes & Noble. I'll drop that in the chat here in just a minute. And a number of other sources out there. But Alisha, you ready for the rapid fire questions?
Yeah, I'm nervous, but let's do this.
I always like to start with the most important one, which really I think gives us a glimpse into anyone's soul. Favorite sandwich? I think that's really...
Okay. I want a homemade like hoagie roll. And I would like some roast beef and some lettuce and some provolone cheese and lettuce with oil and vinegar and salt and pepper and black olives and some banana peppers. Favorite sandwich ever.
Wow. A lot of ingredients here. Sort of channeling a muffaletta here. Am I hearing this? Something like this?
Oh, I don't even know what that is.
It's like this olive kind of tapenade thing. I think it's a New Orleans thing. Really good. Thank you for that very detailed sandwich. I couldn't even write down all the ingredients there. So many. I did just drop Alicia's Barnes & Noble link in the chat if anyone wants to order her book now. So we know the favorite sandwich. And what wine? Favorite wine? Does it pair well with this sandwich?
I think I'd have a beer with that, although I do prefer wine. Maybe like a wildflower. It's from a brewery here in town.
And is there a favorite wine on your list? Is that you?
Yeah, Veuve Clicquot Champagne.
Ah, there it is. Right, the bright yellow label, if I recall.
The yellow
correctly.
label, yeah.
Yes, love it. Favorite color?
Green.
Such a great. That's the right answer. You finally look at the wall behind me, right? Somebody finally got it right. Favorite or most memorable vacation spot?
Paris.
Oh, so good. Such a beautiful city.
Although that's a really hard question.
Right? City, country, mountains, ocean, beach, right? So many choices. But what a great city. Scariest animal?
Squirrels.
Interesting. That is a first on this Meet the Author Live, that squirrels were the most feared animal. Interesting. Apples or bananas, Alicia? This is a big one.
Can I have them together?
Wow, like a fruit salad of sorts. Maybe some blueberries in there. Love it. Favorite movie, or one that really stands out to you?
Amelie.
Ah,
I'm a Francophile. I can't help it.
fun fact, when my wife and I were in Paris a few years ago, we watched Amelie in our hotel room.
I saw it
It all
in
just
Paris.
came full circle.
That's so awesome. I saw it in Paris when it came out
That's
in
really funny.
2001.
That is really funny. What another great parallel in our lives.
Love that.
Favorite smell?
I like Giorgio Armani perfume or like cologne for men. That's like my scent. So maybe right now that's my favorite scent.
Wow.
Such a random.
I feel like the great Karnak right now. What let me see. What is the cologne your boyfriend wears?
We wear the same thing. I made him, like, he just got me his cologne because I liked it so much.
That's amazing. I think mine is bacon and coffee early in the morning when you walk downstairs.
That is a good smell.
Right? Last photo on your phone.
It's a picture of a friend with my book.
Amazing. And we've got a few notes in the chat about that. If you do have Alicia's book already, as I see a few of you put notes in here about, highly recommend taking a picture of it with yourself, put it on Instagram, put it on LinkedIn. That's a really fun thing to do, and a great way to give an author an awesome day. Favorite song to sing with or without an audience? This one's right behind sandwiches in terms of looking into your soul. I'm just going to put it out there.
All right. Anything from Rent or Les Mis or Jesus Christ Superstar. I'm a musical buff.
Clearly, you and my wife would get along. Not enough musicals in the world for her. What's one thing you really should throw out, Alicia?
That I should throw out?
Throw it out.
There's a lot of things that I should really throw out.
Top of the list.
There's some journals that I should probably throw out.
It's things you've written.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Probably time.
It's theyose thoughts they've aged gracefully, and now it's time to move on.
No one needs to read that.
Well, why are we holding on to them?
I don't know, John. I don't know. That's a great question.
maybe a little too deep there for the moment. Now we're going to channel some of the notes in the chat here. Most audacious goal for 2022.
For 2022, most audacious. It's an income goal in my business. I'm going to keep it to myself, but I've got a really big income goal for my business.
Outstanding. You just have you signed all your books for your pre-sale buyers yet?
They're all out. They've all gone out.
That is hence the people. So definitely share a picture of those books if you have them out there, particularly with the autographs on them. That's kind of fun. So speaking of autographs, have you ever asked anyone for their autograph?
I have. It was Eric Lassell. He was ER, and I was really little. So yes, I asked him for his autograph.
That's amazing. For those who don't know, there's a thing on books. There's quotes on the back. They're called praise quotes. Alicia, what praise quote would you like to share with the audience here today from your book?
Daniel Pink's quote. It's on the front of my book. I'm going to share that one.
Outstanding. What did Mr. Pink have to say about little failures?
Failure is a universal experience. Alisha Wielfaert frames it in a way that we can metabolize the lessons and come out stronger on the other side.
That's incredible. Daniel Pink, thank you for putting that beautiful note on Alicia's book. And I love that you reached out to him kind of cold, as I recall, to get that.
Yeah, I'm forever indebted to that man.
That's one of the cool things about a writing journey, right? Who would have ever thought that a multi New York Times bestselling author would be like putting a quote in your book? I mean, certainly, right, possible, but to actually in the outreach, right? But you never know what can attract people to a creation journey, and what an amazing example of that.
Just ask, right? Just ask.
Yeah, but right. I think part of what inspired him, if I had to bet my money on it, like that he was inspired by the story that you're creating, that you're on this journey to help others. And that's really an inspiring thing, which is super cool. Favorite writing location as you went along the way?
My bed. It's the best place to write.
I need more back support, I think, than that, but
Oh, I sit up, I put some pillows, I make it kind of like a chair.
got it. I love it. Most memorable moment in the writing journey for you?
Mm. You know, we were encouraged to never write alone, right? And I like to do things alone. However, in the early part, in the rough draft portion, my friend Jeannie Duncan and I were writing together. And honestly, writing time with her was just tops. We would every now and then share something with one another, and it would inspire one of us. And that experience of just deepening that relationship was one of my favorite writing memories.
Wow, that's so awesome. Jeannie, shout out to Jeannie Duncan, who has a
Duncan,
book
yeah,
coming out in a few months, right?
yeah.
That's incredible. Thank you for sharing that story. Um, what would you say is the best part about being an author thus far? Personally, professionally, what stood out to you?
You know, I was not prepared for the experience of writing a book to be such a community building experience. I had no idea that it would strengthen relationships, that I would meet so many new people in the process, and that uh, how rich it would make my life to share the journey with people.
I mean, two really community network stories right there with Jeannie and sort of the group as a whole. That's incredible, right? The tagline from the program Book Creators Institute, never write alone. And
Yeah.
it's lived, it's breathed, it's done in this program. And it's such a big part of it. I know, I think without that community, my book published at the end of 2020, I tried to quit it really hard twice. And it was very much the community, the coaching, the editors that talked
Oh,
me off the ledge and brought me back, because I had all these thoughts that you shared earlier, sort of this, fear of failure. Like, am I going to produce something good? Is anyone going to read it? All these things. And boy, the community and the process really saved me on that one. A couple other quick thoughts, and we'll go to a couple other comments I wanted to just share that people are putting in here. A lot of great thoughts in here. Uh, I think this was the next one I had on the board here. Charlie Garland. Charlie,
mm,
great to see you on here. Sounds like you've discovered a powerful way for each of us to treat our psychological alarms, pangs of fear, disappointment, embarrassment as triggers
mm.
that can set off a positive response rather than a downward spiral. If so, it seems highly consistent with Eric's presentation around traction. Would
Yeah.
you agree?
Oh, 100% agree. And it's really interesting when we share. I mean, we're going to go all Brene Brown here. When we share about our failures, it's amazing how many people say me too, or like I've had something similar happen. And I don't think any of us need to share anything before we're ready. But when we talk publicly about our failures, it helps other people become brave too. And that's something that's been really important to me in this process of book writing. I mean, I want us to not just go after what we want, even if it means risking failure and having to get back up after failure. I want us to be brave out loud so that we can help each other go after what we want.
What an incredible message. And Charlie Garland, thanks for jumping on and sharing that thoughtful question with us here. Really appreciate that. So many great notes in the chat here. Another question here from Marion. She got your copy. Seeing if she's still get it signed. If that's, I don't know how close you are geographically. See how that we can make that
Yes, I'll
happen.
sign her copy.
Abby, loving the muffaletta. Thank you, Abby. Big fan. Abdul Kadar, face life as a scientist. Love this, right? Constant experimentation and knowing that failure is a thing, and having that mindset and ready to move past it. I think is such a big part of your message here. Can't tell you how much I've enjoyed hearing your story, Alisha, and watching you go through this journey. Two more questions, and we'll wrap it up here. So if you have other questions, throw them in the chat here real quick, because we got about a minute or two left. What would you say to those considering writing a book, Alisha?
There's going to be self-doubt. There's going to be fear of failure. Just do it. It is an incredible experience. You will gain so much more than failure.
Just do it. Channeling your inner Michael Jordan, Nike, right? I love it.
Yeah, just do it.
How would you describe your writing journey? Last question here. Your writing journey in 5 words, not necessarily a sentence, but what 5 words speak to you with your author journey?
Community, overcoming self-doubt,
Sort of a triple, but
friendship, fun, and vulnerable.
wow. Powerful message, powerful story, incredible message you have out there. And can't thank you enough for being on here. And I want to put Alisha's notes up here one more time. If you want to connect with her and go find her book, it's available on Barnes & Noble today and many other places where you buy books online. If you want to find more about Alisha and her story, check her out on Instagram at Yoke and Abundance or yokeandabundance.com, and certainly check out her podcast, which is amazing. And the creator community one, which we just released a few days ago, Alisha, and it was really a pleasure to have you on there. And we take a lot of these stories and have time to go much more deeply into them. Great to see you. Any last thoughts for our audience and listeners out there today?
If you want to write a book, definitely do it. And the Creator Institute is the perfect place to do it. You will not find a more supportive, research-backed community.
Wow. That is quite an endorsement there. I really appreciate that. Such a pleasure to see you. Thank you, everyone who joined us and listened in and dropped all these lovely notes in the chat. Go check out Alisha's book, available now. Get your copy, and maybe she'll even sign it for you if you haven't got a signed copy yet, if you can navigate that one. But Alisha, thank you for joining us today, being on the show, and thanks for being a part of the podcast as well.
Thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, everyone listening. Join us later this week, and we've got a few more of these coming up. Check out and follow New Degree Press on LinkedIn, Facebook, or YouTube to see episodes coming up down the road, but we've got several coming in the next few weeks. Alisha, thanks again. Thanks to all listeners. Have a great rest of the week.